Hey everybody, my name is Rob Evans. I'm with the City of Delray Beach, and thank you for coming to the 2025 Small Business Expo. Today we have all the members from the different departments that can call you directly to make purchases that are under $5,000, and we're trying to get the word out that you don't, if the order is under $5,000, people can actually call you directly from the city. They don't have to go through the RFP process, and they don't have to go through a 3-quote process. So we think that's important to let our small business owners know that. We'd like to also provide you education on some of the other services that we have from the CRA and some of the other programs that we have for the small businesses. So today I'd like to welcome Terrance Moore, the city manager, to start off and kick it off. And Terrance.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Evans, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The enthusiasm so strong, I almost broke the microphone, slipping off the lectern here. But once again, welcome to the City of Delray Beach Small Business Expo. Our interest is to sincerely and genuinely do as much as we possibly can to connect with the local business community, the small business community, because as Mr. Evans just stated in his introductory comments, many opportunities are in fact available. Typically, in some experiences I've had in Delray Beach and other cities I've served in this capacity, there's a prevailing wisdom or suggestion that businesses have to be extremely large, extremely well off in order to be successful to compete for municipal contracts. And our interest in this regard is to demonstrate that that is not so, number one. And number two, because that isn't so, there are many opportunities available to connect in this regard. Therefore, above and beyond representatives from the Office of Economic Development, the Purchasing Division of the Department of Finance, we've involved different departments of the City of Delray Beach to be here. So if you walk around the room here at Pompey Park, you'll notice representation from the Department of Finance, the Fire Rescue Department. The Fire Rescue Department is actually quite considerable because it's one of the largest municipal operations of the City of Delray Beach, commonly the place in many other municipalities as well. So we have upper echelon leadership with us this morning, helping to engage and connect with businesses who may have an interest in assisting their goals and objectives to advance their service delivery. Other departments representing the City of Delray Beach here includes the Department of Parks and Recreation and the Utilities operation as well. The Department of Utilities is another major operation of the City of Delray Beach. As a full-service municipality, the enterprise fund operation of the Department of Utilities is the largest of its kind in terms of municipal service delivery, etc. So for that reason, we have a full complement of opportunities being made available. In addition, in this setting, for those businesses who have not yet made the connection or made the opportunity to become a registered vendor here for the City of Delray Beach, Florida, you will have that opportunity as well, as leadership from the Purchasing Division of the Department of Finance are in position to assist you in making that transition as well. So when opportunities in fact do become available, that's an easier engagement relative to becoming eligible, relative to being invited to submit proposals and considerations for whatever opportunities that may become available on an interdepartmental basis. So again, we're very delighted that you all are here, and we are actually more importantly satisfied of the fact that there is a demonstrated interest to do business with the City of Delray Beach as we continue to expand opportunities being made available as a result. Actually, a number of you all who are here, I recognize and can vouch that you actually have been successful in doing business with the City of Delray Beach over the past couple of years. So I would therefore encourage you all to offer some favorable testimony regarding your experiences in making that connection. Some individual businesses have had to work quite hard to get to a place in which they are in fact eligible, but as of last year when we first hosted the Small Business Expo and the second consecutive year, 2025 today, it's a much more easy, friendly, welcoming, opening process in order to get there. So again, for those of you who have businesses made success making the connection to the City of Delray Beach, Florida, do what you can to offer words of encouragement. We would appreciate that as the partnership relationship to get to the best place possible because, again, other opportunities are pending. Major projects to be implemented, but in order for successful major projects to be implemented, the initial phase of activity is just as important in helping us to be successful across the board. So again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. Much appreciate your interest. And again, feel free to connect with the different departments that are represented here today because, again, as a full-service municipal operation, many opportunities will be available for your ability to connect and engage. Thank you very much. Appreciate you all being here. It's me again. At this time, I apologize, Mr. Evans. I figured that you are a master of ceremonies a little bit. So we'd like to introduce Mr. Kirk Buffington, who is a purchasing and procurement consultant, having had a tremendous career with the City of Fort Lauderdale and other organizations, and he continues to maintain a solid working relationship with the City of Delray Beach to enable our ability to effectively advance our goals and objectives in this regard. Mr. Kirk Buffington, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. City Manager. As the City Manager said, I've been in public sector procurement for over 35 years. Last 25 years, I was with the City of Fort Lauderdale, rose to the Director of Finance position. I'm engaged in trying to help agencies. My tagline is helping the public sector serve the public. Okay? So I'm engaged with not just Delray Beach, but other clients in helping to engage businesses in doing business with agencies. Now, we understand that working and selling to the public sector is not an easy thing to do. We are a tough sector in which to work. And there are a lot of different reasons for that. First and foremost, we're spending tax dollars. We're spending local tax dollars, and we're spending federal tax dollars and state tax dollars. So we are constantly being reviewed and audited by multiple regulatory agencies as to how we spend that money. So a lot of times small businesses will come and say, you know, there are so many hurdles to go through to do business with Delray Beach, Fort Lauderdale, whoever it may be. Yes, there are. We recognize that. We try to streamline that, but you have to understand that at the end of the day, there are half a dozen regulatory agencies that are going to come in and audit as to how we spent those dollars. Okay? So, who is local government? Counties, municipalities, special districts, the school board, the state, not necessarily the state. But those are your local governments. Within a geographic area, if you're a small business, you want to get into the public sector, start with the cities within your county, within your geographic area, whatever your delivery location may be. But we buy a multitude of different commodities and services. Everything from Parks and Rec shirts and ball caps to fire apparatus. Okay? Now, there are very few people in here that probably sell fire apparatus, but you may sell the individual items that go onto a fire truck, whether it be the hoses or the bunker gear or those kinds of things. All right. I'm needing to walk around because at my age, it's hard to see the screens. I need to make sure where we're at. All right, so you need to be, as the city manager mentioned, being registered with the city, okay? So we encourage you, if you're not registered, meet with the procurement department who's here today and get yourself registered. Because in order to receive bid notices, in order to respond to those bid notices, you need to be registered. You need to be able to use the supplier portal. And procurement will walk you through that process. Using the supplier portal is not, you don't need a degree in information technology to use it. Now, here's the challenge for all of you. There are probably half a dozen different supplier portals that are used by public sector agencies. Delray Beach uses Periscope. You're still using Periscope, right? Bid Direct. Okay, sorry, I didn't know that. Bid Direct. bidsdirect.com. Did everybody port over from your old system into the new one? Okay. So, honestly, that's a new one. All right? There's BidSync, there's OpenGov, 2 or 3 others. Those are all different portals that agencies are using. The challenge for you as a small business is that you have to be registered in each of those portals. Okay? And we know that's a challenge. And maybe someday, way far down the road, there'll be a unified portal that everybody uses. A few states have attempted to do that. Virginia, in particular, has tried to use a unified portal for both the state Virginia agencies and the local governments in Virginia. But even that's not really succeeding. I was at a national conference earlier this year. There were 8 different supplier portals being represented at that conference. So it's just a challenge. We recognize it. We encourage you to do what you can to make sure you're registered and you stay current in that registration system. All right, so you also need to be registered with the Florida Department of State, and they use a system called SunBiz. How many of you are not registered with the state of Florida as a business? Anybody? All right, good. Because one of the first things procurement will do once they get a bid is they will go and make sure you're registered in SunBiz and that your registration is current. All right? All right, let's talk a little bit about competitive procurements. We use a lot of acronyms: ITB, RFP, RFQ, all of those kinds of things. Now, why do we use these different acronyms? It's the different competitive methodology. An ITB is simply an invitation to bid. What determines who gets the award on an ITB? Anybody? I think I heard somebody say price? Yes. Lowest responsible bidder with the lowest price. As long as you meet the minimum specifications, the lowest bidder with the lowest price will be awarded that bid. The other term you'll hear a lot is RFP, request for proposal. What's the difference? Anybody know between an ITB and an RFP? RFP is based on other criteria besides price. Usually it's things along the lines of prior work experience, customer references, those kinds of things. If it's a technology RFP, they're going to look at how cutting edge your technology is. All right, so if you choose to respond to an RFP, then you need to understand that it's not just going to be the lowest price. You may have the lowest price, but you may not meet other qualifications that are listed in that RFP proposal. And I'm going to go through a lot of information, okay, in a very quick period of time. I will be around after the discussions are done for particular questions. But my purpose here is to give you an overarching look at local business or small businesses doing business with local governments, okay? So there are a lot of legal issues. We're under the gun, under the fishing. I like to say we spend our life in the fishbowl because we're constantly being looked at by not just the regulatory agencies, but also the public, our constituents, the residents who live in Delray Beach. You all need to be aware of some things that you need to either certify or comply with when you respond to a bid or an RFP. And those include non-collusion statements, that you have not colluded in your response to this bid. Public entity crimes, that you or the owners of your company have not been convicted of certain public entity crimes, which generally means corruption and bribery. All right, you haven't bribed a public official to get a contract. Criminal activities, anti-lobbying laws, public disclosure laws. Florida has one of the broadest public records and public meeting laws in the country. You need to know that when your proposal is opened or your bid is opened, it becomes public record. So your pricing becomes public record. You need to understand that and know that. And it stays public record depending on certain retention policies of the state for up to 5 to 7 years. Okay? So keep in mind of those legal issues, and this is regardless of whatever agency you may be submitting a bid, is the public records and some of these other issues. Insurance and liability. You will be required to submit certificate of insurance of having certain minimum levels of insurance. Okay? And that's critical also. You may, I won't talk about this too much, you may submit a bid on where it requires what's called a performance bond. I'm not going to spend too much time on that because we're talking primarily of businesses outside of construction, small businesses, supplies, services, that kind of thing, where performance bonds usually are not required. RFPs, RFQs, bids, RFIs, oh my. Yes, we have a lot of acronyms. I talked about those a little bit. Again, the reason we have those is to do a different way of selecting who we think will do the best job for the city. You may come across what's called an RFI or an LI. That's a request for interest, request for letters of interest. That is not a pricing proposal. They just want to know if you have the ability or the capability to do a certain project. Request for qualifications. This primarily refers to management consulting and architectural and engineering design services. Anybody in here aligned with architectural engineering services? Okay. You've probably heard of this. This is how the state mandates that architects and engineers have to be retained, is through a specific request for qualifications process. If you do respond to an RFP, it goes through an evaluation process. As I said before, it is not the lowest bid. They're going to evaluate. They're going to create a committee. They're going to have public evaluation meetings to review all of the RFP proposals that were received. And then they're ranked, and there may be public comment, there may be public presentations, and then they are awarded to the best favorable RFP proposal to do the job. Have any of you responded to an RFP for Delray Beach or any other agency? All right. E-commerce. This, I started, well, like I said, 35 years ago, when I started in the public sector procurement business, we sent out postcards to tell bidders we had a bid. We've come a very long way, and we had dot matrix printers and all of that kind of thing. We've come a very long way. Everything is done electronically. You need to be connected. You need to be registered in the supplier portals. You will not get business. You will not be notified of business, particularly for small businesses. The state statute still requires that construction bids be advertised in the local newspaper, but that's about the only thing that is still mandated to be advertised in the local paper. So you need to be proactive in getting registered and being notified and getting all those emails of potential bids. Cooperatives is another way that the city can buy things. We won't talk too much about that. Again, we've talked about vendor registration, how important it is. Are all of you registered to do business with Delray Beach? I think if you're not, like I said, go see the procurement folks. You get the award. That's when your job really starts. It is critical that you perform well and you perform according to what the contract requires. You deliver the goods on time, you provide the services on time, you exceed the specifications so that you get a good reference from Delray Beach. I still know almost every purchasing agent in Broward County. Okay? I know everybody back at Fort Lauderdale. I know everybody at Pembroke Pines, Hallandale, all of those. We talk. We have quarterly meetings. And you can believe me when we talk about vendors who are not doing a good job for us. So once you get the award, really, really work on doing a great job. Okay, I went through a lot of stuff, I admit that. Questions for the group, and like I said, I'll be around after the panel is done. Anybody? Okay.
Good job. I don't know.
Next, I'd like to introduce Jackie Ramirez is Assistant Director to the SBDC at FAU. They provide assistance to small business owners and aspiring entrepreneurs through counseling, training, and technical support, with a focus on fostering local and regional economic development. SBDCs help businesses improve their planning, financial management, marketing, and access to capital, ultimately supporting business growth, sustainability, and job creation. Everybody, here's Jackie Ramirez.
We got some tall people in this group. Okay, can you hear me all right? You good? Okay. So I'm part of what is actually a network of consultants spread across the country. Every state has a network of consultants that will help you build your business. The Small Business Development Center has been around for 50 years. That's when it started. Florida was one of the first states to actually put this into work. And we're supported by the SBA. There were 2 professors that convinced them back then that it was important that small businesses had not just money, but they had guidance as well. So what we have 9 teams here in Florida, and we cover the gamut. And what I'm going to do in this presentation is actually talk you through the different services we have and how we connect into the actual contracting process at all levels, at the city level, the county level, the state level, and the federal level. Because one of the things that I want you to keep in mind is working with the city is actually a way to prepare yourself to work with the county, to work with the state, and eventually obtain federal contracts. So we see this as a flow that's a great way for you to build your business over time. Okay? See if I'm doing this right. There we go. One of the things that we always ask, and I'm just going to show it up here, but it'll pop up later on in the presentation, is we need your input when it comes to the work that we do and the events that we hold or we participate in. So there's a really short survey that would show up if you took this QR code with your camera, with your phone. And it'll appear about 3 times. You don't have to worry about it now. It's a short, but it's information on how this event worked for you. We will share it with Rob at the city, and you can give feedback so that next time there are events, you can actually contribute to the improvement of those events, or is there certain topics that you wish had been covered and so on. Okay, so just keep that in mind because I want to make sure that's covered. And also in the audience is Jamison Pierre-Louis. He's on our team. He's a client intake administrator, and he'll be around if you have questions for him. Okay. So take a look. This is where all the 9 in the state of Florida. These are your 9 teams. FAU is our host. Our services are totally free to our small businesses, and they cover the gamut of whatever a small business might need in way of guidance. So it could be marketing, it could be business planning, it could be access to capital. We don't provide the funding or the money, but we work with the SBA-approved banks to arrange funding for businesses that need that in order to either get over a hump, to grow, to add employees. During a time of disaster, the Small Business Development Center is actually the first contact you receive. We've been doing that for the state of Florida for decades. So when there is an any sort of like COVID or hurricane, we wait until it's secure, the area, and then we come in with trucks and we start meeting with business owners. Because the longer you are not in business, the longer your doors are closed, the more likely you will not open them again. So that's the first thing that we do, is we go in and get you opened up. Okay, and that may need some funding, it may mean hand-holding, it could be a lot of different things. Strategic planning, digital footprint, how are you getting the word out about your business? We have marketing consultants, we have web design consultants, we have individuals who understand the need to get out and network, and we have a lot of relationships within the counties of Palm Beach and Broward County to turn you to. Cybersecurity, and then there's an annual conference every year where all our small businesses get together and they meet each other, and then they hear speakers. Now, we look at businesses in 3 categories. Actually, let me back you up. Okay, we'll do that later. So in addition to the Small Business Development Center, there's a nationwide organization called APEX. And APEX is focused primarily on the federal level of contracting. And they're a partner with the Defense Works, which actually looks at it from the military standpoint. And they're partnered with the SBA. So that's kind of like, for a lot of our clients, that's where they want to end up, is actually growing their company to the point, both in its size and in its function and its operations, to be able to take on a federal contract. So we lay it out like this. This is a funnel. We love working with cities and helping them help their small businesses contract with them. And Delray, I've been located here since 2016. I've had my office here in Delray. And they have a wonderful procurement. They just have a wonderful group of staff that actually are really focused on helping the small businesses participate with them. And at SBDC, we look at that whole flow. So starting with the city and then with the county has their county level projects, and they have a really clean certification process. They're constantly checking and making sure, what the OEBO does is make sure that small businesses get the same level of potential and access as the larger companies. So there's a lot of training involved, there's a lot of tracking you involved, and if you want to look at the county level, the best thing that you can do is work at the city level. So because working at the city level helps you actually create a business that can be trusted and that is in play. Your operations are structured well, you're dependable, people know about you, your name gets around, you go to the county, that's an entry. You do the same thing at the county, going up to the state level, you've got a network of people that will help introduce you. And then if you've done all of that, when we get to the federal level, one of the first things a contractor at the federal level asks of a client is, where else have you done contracts? Not if you've done contracts at the federal level, but have you practiced that over time so that you already know what's needed, right? And that's the sort of work we do with you. Is we help you where you are, and we help you start looking at what's not going well, what needs to be changed, how to change it, and we guide you to build a company that has a reputation for being on target, that knows their financials, that's managing their financials well, that knows and understands contracting, that actually is a good partner. They stay in touch. They plan for whatever they have to have in place for that contract to be successful. That's our goal, to get you to a place where it's just like, of course I'm going to work with that small company. We've watched them grow over time. Okay? These, and you can't see it here, but if you go on our website, you'll see it. We look at companies at 3 levels. That would be your pre-venture. That's the new under 3 years company. They have some very basic things that they need to get in place, not just the registration with the state, but also tax information, business formation, business mapping. And then they go into emerging when they're actually at that 3 year, because 3 years is kind of the tipping point. If you can get that revenue flowing and it's going well and you have a nice group of clients, you get you to that 3 year, then you know that you're really moving, okay? And there are things there that we work with is sales growth, leadership and team coaching, cash flow management, market analysis. We have a couple of great researchers. We have 2 capital access employees. They know what banks want to work with small businesses. They work with you to make sure you have everything in order. They identify those banks who are SBA protected, and then they have the conversations with you and for you with that bank, the one that said, yes, we want to work with them. Okay, so they guide you all the way through that process and then stay in touch with you. And then that bigger one, the growth and established, these are organizations that are large enough now, they still need the work. We have some of the companies that have been with us for 40 years. But they need also to think about other ways to expand, so it may be export. We have 2 trade export. That's an area that eventually you might want to consider. There could be a service or a product that would do well going overseas. So export planning, the federal government contracting level, business valuation, those sort of things. So what happens is if you register with us, you actually get assigned to a consultant. The way we function is those consultants work together. So whatever, as you're going through, you have a lead, and then that lead will identify other consultants that need to come in and interact with you and help with, depending on what your objectives are. So this is some of the work that we've accomplished working with clients from the early stage all the way through. We just in 1 year is almost 1,500 clients, a lot of consulting hours. We create jobs as well as help them bring in money and sales. And we work on new business starts. And I'm going to show you in a minute, there's actually we're launching a program at FAU for those of you who are in here who are thinking about a business. It is a 1 day where a consultant's working with you on how to get started, what do you think about, what do you have to put into that design. We've raised in the last year $36 million in capital for these businesses, $61 million in government contracting. And this is just our team here in Palm Beach and Broward. It's the one of 9. And again, that's the QR code for the survey. On the left is and you'll see this if you go to our website, on the left is the program for the launch. On the right is the trade series. So we are always having events where you can go in, either just like this, conversations, but also structured training. And that is never at cost to you either. Okay. This is the SBA, our partner. They have a learning channel on their website. Costs you nothing to go in and register and be part of it. And it has a whole series of information and training and experiences that you can go through to learn about 14 different areas, one of them being government contracting. So you can go in there and just spend some time reading what they have to say, getting a sense of what they look for as a partner in government contracting. It's an interesting website. It just got launched a few months ago, but it's very easy to use, and it's a lot of great information. There's information on capital access, what their partner banks look for. There's another one on just how do you build your staff. It's a really interesting piece, and what we often do is we'll pull down pieces from that to share with our clients. So we're on all the websites, all the social media. You can follow us. We have newsletters that come out. Once you're a client, you get our emails updating you on stuff. And because we love working with the different cities in the area, and in case for me, I love working with Delray because I live just north of here. We like to share information on what's going on in their areas as well. But again, the main thing that I wanted to be able to help you understand is this step here is a great step because it's going to set you up for additional contracts and broader places as you move through that funnel. And that contracting, just the fact that you are accepted for the contracting and you have it coming, just helps make your business be seen as someone who really understands what it means to do business, what it understands to protect your business. Your networking will just grow. It's really a good step for you. Okay? And I'll be around if you have any questions. I'm going to leave that there if it's okay for a few minutes. If you want to go ahead and get a picture, and if you're willing to do that, that would be helpful. Our funding from the SBA that keeps you from having to pay for our services, this is part of the data that they use to see if we've been following up with what they need for us to be doing. Okay? So thank you, and thank you for letting me come and speak. I appreciate it very much. I look forward to these every year. And again, I'll be here if you have any questions, and Jamie's here as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jackie. Next, we'd like to give you a brief overview on what we've been working with the fire chief, Chief Garcia, and Stephanie Craney. They've been working on a business continuity plan for a hurricane to get ready for a hurricane if something happens. I didn't know that, but about 50% of businesses close after a major hurricane. So, Chief Garcia, welcome.
Good morning, everybody. My name is David Garcia. I'm the Assistant Chief of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. One of the initiatives we had in the Emergency Department was creating some sort of awareness for not just the community, but the businesses within that community, right? So just for a show of hands, how many businesses here are actually inside the City of Delray? Awesome. Perfect. That's awesome. That's good to see. Do we have that slide up by chance? The QR code? No? Okay, no problem. So the community guide that we created has a lot of information, and this is a lot of good resources for not just anybody within the City of Delray, but anybody within pretty much the state of Florida. So what we're going to find in there is pretty much what actions you should take before a hurricane, what is a perfect checklist to have in place for planning pre, during, and post storms. Like we mentioned earlier, 40 to 50% of businesses actually will shut down post-storm if we don't have a plan in action. So this community guide, which you can find it in the back by the Fire Rescue Department's table. We have a few printouts, but we also have a QR code that I hope that we might be able to get up on the screen. If not, we'll have access to it, where it'll take you straight to the emergency management website, and you'll have access to pretty much anything from the Florida Department of Emergency Management, from ready.gov. You're going to have pre-hurricane checklists, post-hurricane checklists, recovery plans, and pretty much tips and guides, not just for the businesses, but for your workers, what to do with those contacts and that information, and how to actually pretty much develop that emergency plan for when that hurricane's coming. So we're going to be back here in the back table, answer any questions. We have some of those printouts for you guys. Feel free to ask any questions. I have some business cards out there as well. That's pretty much all I have for you.
Thank you very much, Chief Garcia. And then Jeff Horace, Assistant City Manager, is going to wrap it up. Jeff?
All right. Is that working? Doesn't sound like it is. I'm green, but I'm not working. All right, well, it is working. Is it working? Oh, there we go. Now I can hear it. The reason I do this is I'm your last speaker, so we're almost there. We're almost there. One of the things the city's trying to do is really engage with our small business. I'm happy to see so many of you are based here. You heard some from Kirk about what the city buys. The city buys just about everything. If you look around, just in this room, think about it. We buy chairs. We buy scoreboards. We buy trophies. If you go around the tables, you'll see all the swag we buy. We buy pens, pencils. We buy food. We have plenty of events that we have to have somebody do some form of catering for. We wash City Hall. It gets dirty. We need to have it power washed. We build things. This entire complex is going to be rebuilt soon. Now, I would imagine most of you in this room keep hearing RFP, RFP. You know these are large projects. You're going, I can't do that. That's way bigger than my business. The important thing to realize is a lot of the people who get those jobs need subcontractors. So we can help you engage with some of those prime contractors on really large jobs. But the more important thing for you all to understand is we buy a lot of small things. Up to $5,000, we just need one quote. That's it. Up to $65,000 of a purchase, we only need 3 quotes. We may put something out on the street. We may do a formal bid for that. But we only have to do it past $65,000. Now, what's really important and the fun part of this event for you is these tables around the room. These are tables that represent each of our departments. We have asked each of those departments to have a representative here who understands what they buy and are the people involved in those purchases. So what you all want to do before you leave is visit tables, find out what each of those department purchases, make nice with the people there, because it's going to be up to them when they need something to go, who should I call to see what the price is? And what you really want them to do is call you. That's the important thing. We wanted to make sure that we gave you the opportunity to interface with the people who make the calls so that you have that opportunity. Most important thing, of course, as you heard earlier, is registering with our purchasing department. It's really easy to do by going onto the city's website, jumping to the purchasing department's page, and it's right there to register. And the reason that's important is because if the fire department's sitting there going, we need some oxygen tanks. Maybe they only need a few, so they're looking to buy. They're going to call up purchasing and go, hey, who do we have in the vendor system that provides these, that sells these? That's going to be their first line of attack. That's going to be the first people they talk to. If you're not in that system, they're not going to buy from you. So that's why it's important to be registered. It's also important to note that the city, almost everything we do, we require that you have insurance. One of the most important things to know is you don't have to have that insurance until we sign the agreement with you. So you can give us a quote, remember that you're going to have to provide that, find out what the limits are for that, and work that into your quote. Make sure that you cover yourselves on that. We don't want you to get caught in a spot where you go, oh, I can't do it, or, oh, I got to eat that cost and I don't want to. So make sure you understand when that's happening, what's going on there. There's also plenty of times, usually the city requires $1 million or up of insurance. For certain smaller things, we can certainly work with that and work with our risk management department and lower that if it's appropriate. So don't let any limits we put out there scare you. But again, one of the important things you get to do now, and the fun part, is talking to the folks from the department, finding out which departments purchase whatever goods or services you provide, and make that connection. And hopefully, when the time comes, if they need something you provide, they give you a call. I know the folks who attended last year, several people did work with the city on things. They were also very aggressive about what they were doing and making sure that our department folks knew who they were and exactly what they sold and how to get a hold of them. So you want to make sure that you're clear with everybody. And we'll encourage them also afterwards to do the best they can to reach out to those folks they've met here when they need those goods and services. So beyond that, I'm going to tell you, you made it through the very educational portion. I would encourage you at any portion, any time in your business's lifespan, to reach out to the SBDC. They can always provide information you don't know. I will tell you also, I hate telling this because it makes me sound bad sometimes, but I had my own business. There were a lot of things I messed up on my first year because I hadn't had a business before. I did things like, oops, I forgot that my taxes were due the month before personal taxes. So I had that fun with the IRS, as well as also one day when I got 13 letters from the IRS. Now, it was telling me I hadn't submitted a report that I didn't need to because I didn't have employees, but I got 13 letters in one day and 3 more the next day. Some folks like Jackie and her folks at the SBDC can kind of help you when those sort of things happen, let you know what's going on. So good folks to get in touch with. It comes at the best cost possible to your business, a big fat nothing. So that's great. They're a wonderful resource you should really reach out to no matter where your business is in its lifespan. So with that, I'm going to ask you to take a little bit of time to go visit with all the city folks, and I think our CRA's here as well. Find out what they buy, find out if you can do business with us. And beyond that, I'll thank you for your time and let you do that so you can go back out there and make some money. Thank you all very much for coming. One last thing, if you missed anything today, of course, we've got cameras. That's because we're recording, because we also buy audio-visual services. This will be on our YouTube channel, so if you missed something, you missed somebody's phone number or something, you can go there and get it. So, again, thank you very much for coming.